of the world, top of the...
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Wonder Women podcast, the main podcast for the business magazine forwomen.com. In our podcast, just like in our magazine, we're focused on promoting women's voices in business, technology, STEM, politics, sports, arts, and culture. My name is Monica Antohi. I am the founder of the business magazine forwomen.com and the host for today's podcast. Our Wonder Woman of today is LoriAnne Reeves. She's the master of sales. She's literally a sales expert. And we really needed to have this conversation about money and about women learning the value of themselves and their offerings and being confident enough in asking for a fair exchange. LoriAnne is a certified therapist, a business strategist, and a speaker focused on increasing your sales, basically. So we'll be talking about money, we'll be talking about our hangups about money, and how to get better at asking for money. But before I actually get you to today's conversation, I'd like to take a minute and let you know that our summer issue, the summer issue of the business magazine forwomen.com, is out, and you're able to find it at thebusinessmagazineforwomen.com/magazine. And I can't wait to know what you guys are thinking about it. Also, we're on Patreon. If you like what you're seeing and hearing in our podcast, we would love you to become one of our Patreon supporters. So it's Friday. It's actually Thursday evening. So, but for us, for when you're going to hear this, it's going to be Friday. So for the price of a happy hour glass of wine or more, basically in exchange for your support, you'll be receiving cool perks like getting your name mentioned in our next podcast recording, or a handwritten card from us, or you'll get the current issue of our magazine, the Business Magazine for Women, delivered directly to your inbox. We've been called Forbes for Women and just made the top 10 digital business magazines for women. And we're very excited about that, and we're very grateful as well for that. Today, we'd like to mention and thank specifically some of our favorite supporters. We'll start with Ms. Eli Mattern of SavvySuit.com. We're going to go to Adelaide Waters of Women's Forum, and that's wforum.org. Brandy Roberts of TopHoustonExecutives.com, and Patricia Dussin of FreshLunchboxes.com. That's it. Thank you for your support, ladies, and we greatly, greatly appreciate your standing with us in becoming part of our tribe. To join the ladies that have been supporting us, go to Patreon, spelled patreon.com/Wonder Women Podcast. Thanks, everybody. And now let's get you to today's conversation.
And in today's podcast is actually a very interesting conversation because we're going to be discussing how to make money, how to sell, how to actually get out there and get your voice heard and ask. And we're going to also be discussing mental health because they're kind of paired in many, many ways. So to help me talk about both of these very important aspects of a businesswoman's life, I've invited Ms. LoriAnne Reeves. She's a certified speaker. She's a business strategist and a personal therapist. And with her background in family therapy, and she's also has a massive drive to make women, to teach women how to sell, basically. So let's say hello to LoriAnne and welcome her to the podcast. Hello, LoriAnne, and welcome.
Hi, Monica. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about my favorite subjects.
Yay! Absolutely. So let's introduce you to the audience. Who is LoriAnne Reeves, and why are you so perfect for talking about sales and talking about the mental health? Not just really women, but mental health in general. So let's start there.
All right, sounds great. So I have an interesting, varied background. I came out of college and I got my first job, but my second job turned out to be 8 years in corporate sales. I was a top sales rep for them. I had a vast territory around Texas, and then eventually I had a national territory actually selling to the beer and wine industry, which was a fun job.
Nice.
Yes. And I learned a lot, and I had some great mentors there. There weren't many women back then that were doing sales, corporate sales like I was, on the road, working out of my home, being accountable for, a $5 to $10 million territory. And I really enjoyed it. But after 8 years, I'd been on the road and I wanted to do something different. And someone said to me, you'd be a good therapist. It was a out of the blue conversation. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm going to check that out. And I ended up getting accepted into the marriage and family therapy program at University of Houston, Clear Lake. And after graduation, I built a clinical practice for 17 years and had therapists working for me. And, you know, even though we're talking about mental health and selling, they go together, because when you're a business owner, you are selling yourself, and not only to your potential clients, but that you've got value to give to them, but also how to manage your people. It also has a lot of selling components there. Again, I wanted something different after 17 years, and I had been coaching other therapists to build their practice, and the one thing they never want to do is use the word sell. They ignore it, and I found the same thing in entrepreneurship as I started being associated with entrepreneur associations, and I went to some of these live events, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got the perfect combo. And
yes,
so
ma'am,
that's how, yes, and that's how it all got started. So for the last 5 years, I combined my psychology background and my systems thinking around marriage and family therapy that works for organizations and small business owners, and around the psychology of sales, and also how to make sure your sales, your marketing, your business model all are in alignment for the best version of yourself.
So you basically got to combining both aspects of your career,
yes.
you know, which is fantastic. I mean, how much perfect, you know, can it get? But like, what led you to sales, first of all, and then it cannot just be somebody saying, hey, you should try that, and then you tried it, and it cannot be that. You obviously have an affinity for psychology, and you have a particular affinity for that. So obviously, because you wouldn't have been in practice for 17 years, and
right.
you wouldn't have, you know, taught others how to do it properly. So what were your motivating factors? Like, how did you get to do
There
those
were
things?
some practical pieces to that. I've been on the road for 8 years. I was trying to get pregnant. I couldn't. I had a tremendous amount of infertility problems, and it's kind of like an epiphany of, I cannot continue with this job, but what else can I do? I was searching for something else to do that, you know, whether it was a sales job locally but my clients always confided in me. I'm the oldest of 5. I'm a problem solver. I have that affinity, like you say. And so when I went and had a lunch with my friend, and I was telling her this, you know, what was running in my head, she says, you know, LoriAnne, you have a lot of family background with your crazy family.
I'm sorry, but we all have crazy families.
Yes, yes.
I think we can all relate.
Yes, and you're looking for just a change in it, and so that was the practical piece of not traveling. I knew I couldn't do it with the company I was with. I was ready for a change. I wanted to come off the road, and I wanted to get pregnant, and I needed time to do that with infertility. So if anybody on your podcast has ever struggled with that, it is like a job. And so,
it is a job.
Yes, and so what happened was, when I made the decision to apply, I applied, I got pregnant, and I took my first class all in the same month.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, yes. And I took a class because I needed some background classes. I had a technical degree. I had a textile chemistry degree, so I didn't have any psychology in my undergrad. So I had to take some classes. So I started that in January, and I was officially accepted in September, and I took my son with me to grad school. And that's how it all began.
Oh, my goodness. That's awesome.
Yes, and you're right. The minute I graduated, I had an affinity not only for psychology, but business. 3 out of my 4 grandparents were entrepreneurs, even though none of my parents or my aunts and uncles were. I got that bug from them. And I also worked for one of my grandmothers and one of my grandfathers when I was very young. So I got used to asking for money, because they would send me, go ask for the money, and they would deliver the goods. They used the cute little girl act to go get money.
So you learned your lessons fairly young.
I did. I just didn't know I did until I started. Really, these last 5 years, how all the pieces have come together. So,
how beautiful is that? So basically, like at the end of the psychology career, are you still practicing? I honestly, I don't know if you're still practicing.
I am still licensed, and I practice a little differently now. I practice any of my older clients. It's really interesting. I have always had generations of families, and so they find me, and I do it all virtually. But I use it also in the entrepreneurial space. I'll go to someone's event, they'll hire me for the event, and what I'm doing, if I'm not doing their sales team, I'm there to be in the background, help with any tension going on among staff, because when you put on a 3-day event, there's so much money that you've put into it. Of course, you want to get that back and make money, and you want to serve at the same time. So there's a lot of moving people pieces, and I'm there as the therapist to handle any tension and to read the room and give people my feedback, the person that hired me. So I use it a little differently, which I still love. And the thing about sales and money, Monica, is that even in my private practice, when I had the clinical practice going, money is the last thing anyone wants to talk about. They'll talk to me about their cheating spouse, being horrible parents, horror stories you hear that people tell you. But for me to ask about money, it's like the wall goes up until they get used to me around that. So it wasn't a far stretch for me to bring that knowledge into what I'm doing now because of that.
And do you think that it's just, I mean, so we're not used to asking for money, and we're not used to being asked for money either. So where is that coming from? Like, how do we get there? Like, because everything is, you have to exchange something. You have to exchange value somehow. You can't just get things without giving things. So how do we have such a blockage when it comes to money, when it comes to, hey, how much, this is what my hourly is, this is what this is going to cost, and this is what it is. I mean, there shouldn't be any issue with asking what what you should be, where you valued at.
Right.
So why do we have such a hard time asking for that? And why do we have such a hard time talking about money in general? Like, what's the problem?
I know. I love that you've asked me this question, because I'm on a mission, especially for women business owners, to have confidence in this topic, because they don't. They really, really don't. If your calendar and your checking account, your bank account is not full, there could be definitely a money issue going on. So first of all, it's cultural. Okay, the United States was built on commerce, and so we are accused across the world about being too obsessed with money, but also culturally through a lot of our religions and the way we're organized as a country is we're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about if you got a raise at work.
Yeah, your salary. Yeah.
Right. How many women come out and they're wearing something new, and the husband goes, "Oh, is that new?" "Oh, no, I've had it for a long time." I mean, think about all the cultural pieces we live with every day around money, and they tell us not to talk about it. Just in general. Now you take women who are used to being our caretakers, and they want to serve. They have a tremendous heart. But they equate asking for money, first of all, like the used car salesperson. That I hear that all the time.
That's not the case.
I know it's not. And the other piece is they don't value themselves in the entrepreneurial space. We've kind of got used to a society of McDonald's and Walmart where things are cheap, and they're associating with themselves like that. So if you have, like to me, I sell my intellectual property. I am generous, but at some point, this is what you buy from me. And the most confident person who says the price usually gets the business. And we don't have confidence in how we speak about money and even to ask about money, which is the sales piece.
So do you think that's one of the reasons why we don't go and ask for, increases at work, for salary increases at work, and for bonuses, and for whatever, like if you're an IC, or if you're, if you're asking, if we're, startup founder, you don't go and ask for all the money you need. You ask for, I can do with a little bit. I can make it happen. Yeah. So. Do you think that's the, reason? Is it just
absolutely. I mean, listen, women, I think in corporate America, if they work hard, they will be rewarded. As we know, if we work hard and never ask, they take advantage of us. They love us because we're doing the work. But if they can get away without paying high salaries to people, corporate America doesn't want to. And,
absolutely.
And the person who asks and is the most confident, besides being of great value to the customer, gets the raise. And we have evidence. It's going to take us now 100 years to catch up to parity with men in corporate America. There's no reason for that. Every company in the United States could have a policy implemented in a year that would wipe that out. And if you don't know this, Salesforce is a big company, and the CEO actually did that. It cost him $5 million in 6 months to bring all his women up that had the same title as the men, and to make sure they were being paid the same. So it's there, and we can fix it. It's just we've got the cultural excuse going on right now.
Right, and it's easier as a manager, or director, or VP to just do salary increases at the end of the year. No problem, but if you don't ask for a little bit more because, let's say, you worked harder, or you've saved the company millions of dollars, or you know what I mean.
Right.
So if you know what you've done, why not stand in that? Why not just accept that? So yes, it's a confidence issue, and it's it's a lot of fear as well about maybe losing your job, maybe. So we value security, and women value security and safety above everything else. Guys are a little bit more free-flowing. Yes, I'm going to ask for this raise. If I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. If I'm not, I'm just going to go to another. I'm going to go across the street. I'm going to get a better job.
Actually, that's right. That's what men do, and women don't do that. And I think that's a gender issue for a lot of women, because they look as money. Women put more feelings to money. Money is an innate object, but we have done an excellent job of giving money all this power and all these feelings that we can't separate ourselves as much. And women come in lower from the beginning. They don't research. They don't look at it and say, no, that's kind of low. This is where all you have to do is Google. You can figure it out. Now, our millenniums are doing a little bit better job of it, but the other women didn't start. If you don't start in at the same rate, what happens is it's hard to catch up. So
absolutely, and the only thing that kind of triggers any sort of money attachment to women is how we used to be sold. Basically, if you think about it. Oh, my girl is worth, my baby girl is worth 5 cows. Right.
So no. There's so much. We could spend a year talking about this and not cover everything. It's just so prevalent in our subconscious, unconscious, that we don't realize what we're doing to ourselves. Because when I ask women who work with me, they don't think they have that problem. And when they get done with me, they realize they do, and then I help them put in some techniques and tools they can use to make sure they're not devaluing themselves. And there's a lot of fear around money for women. There's basically, if you want me to go into this right now, I will. There are 4 fears that women really hold on to, especially in the entrepreneurial space. If they make more money, it'll be too much work for them, is one of them. If I make too much money and I'm all that I can be, then I'll have to leave family and friends behind. It's a big one.
Wow.
Yes, if I build my business and have the kind of income I really want, then people are going to leave me also. And the other one is I'm not worth it.
Oh, wow. Those are earth-shattering.
Huge.
all of them, each one of them is bad, you know.
Yes, each one of them, absolutely. And we don't realize how we carry them. So when I teach someone to have a sales conversation, and I use the word sales, I want to say this on purpose, because I think the greater entrepreneurial space has done us a disservice, especially with women entrepreneurs. They call it client enrollment. They give it fancy names because they know women cringe at the word sales. But I've chosen a different path and to use the word because it is one of 3 fundamental pieces you need to grow a business. Besides the problem you solve, the message, a compelling message, and then you have to bring money in. Everything else comes after. But women tend to build their businesses backwards by doing the social media first or getting their website and do not concentrate as much on the 3 fundamentals. But yeah, so it's tough. And so what the industry has done is really fed our fear to take these other programs that are they're really sales, but they won't call them that. And so my philosophy on that, being a therapist and on my psychology background, when do you build something based on fear? Whether you think it's God or the universe that supports you, he or she doesn't tell you that. It says build on your strengths and build on the things that energetically bring you the kind of freedom you want. And money gives you freedom of choice. It's not so much for buying things. It's very much for choice.
It is for choice. It is for feeling okay with who you are. Because I'm sorry, but if you always, if you don't ask for what you need, you're not going to get what you need, first of all. And if you're not going to get what you need, you're going to feel undervalued, you're going to feel unappreciated, you're going to feel like you're wasting your life. So that being said, there's this fear, you know, and we can probably talk about fear for the next 100 years.
I know.
But like, you know, one of my absolute most favorite quotes is "Fear is the mind killer" from Frank Herbert's Dune. Every time I'm like, what am I going to do now? I'm like, chill. Fear is the mind killer. Literally, I say that to myself. It's a litany against fear. So you recite all that, but besides the point, whatever helps you get out of your fear mode, it's tremendously helpful. But fear, it's not, first of all, it's not real. It's something that's imagined. And somehow it's very palpable. Somehow it's very present and very now and part of a lot of people's 80% of their days. So how do we get past that point? How do we get past this stupid fear that has nothing to do with reality and nothing to do with anything, basically, you know?
So for me, when I work with my clients, and even for myself, when I feel fear, I feel into it. When we say to ourselves, when my fear goes away, then I'll take this next big step. Well, it's not going to happen. You'll be telling me that for the next 5 years. But fear is actually to step into and start asking yourself some really good questions, whether you journal or you just sit still for a minute. First of all, you want to know what that fear is about. You want to ask some open-ended questions, things like, if this fear wasn't here, would I be able to take that next step? If I was confident that fear was pointing me in the right direction, what direction am I supposed to take? I mean, just some questions of where you're going, what's your next step. Now, when I say that, people go, okay, I'm going to build this empire. I go, no, fear is just telling you your next step. And if the next step is to say no, you need to say that with confidence. But if you're using fear to hold yourself back, then you're going to have to take some action along with your fear. And that's the only way it goes away. Fear is when you change your human experience that you're having.
So basically you're saying to lean into the fear. Basically, whatever you're afraid of doing, go do that. This is kind of what you're saying.
Yes, I am saying that. Now, of course, sometimes some things you shouldn't do, but I mean, the fear is telling you something for a reason. It's built into us. from, when our ancestors to back then to warn us. Now what we've done as we've evolved, it warns us based on what we're afraid to be. As a therapist, men always told me the thing they wish they had done more when they were, getting ready to retire was spend more time with their family and their friends. Women said, I wish I had lived up to who I was. And most women's fear in business is not living their potential. And
there's more regret.
It's regret. More women have regret than men do.
That's not good.
That's not good. Monica, I cannot tell you how many women I speak to, and I know I can help. Because, being a therapist, you hone in on the people you really know you can help, even if they can't see it yet. And you hold that container for them, and they won't step into it. They would rather go buy the next Facebook Live program or Instagram program and do that than face into who they can be. And we're more afraid of success than anything else.
I've seen that again and again and again and again.
No,
I've seen people keep buying self-improvement books, again and again. And hey, there's another one coming out. Let's do that. And there's another one coming out. Let's do that. And I'm like, wait. Did you apply any of that? Did you actually do anything that book has told you to do? No, because you're not actually. It's an escapism somehow. Yes. They're doing that to escape what's going on within them. Like they're trying to get away from that fear that you were talking about, and it's terrifying for that person. Obviously, it's terrifying for that person because they probably don't have the tools to deal with this.
Right.
So if you don't have the tools to deal with this, you don't even know what to call it. You don't even know where to begin. Right. So where do you begin? You've read all the self-improvement books. You literally everything out there, right?
Right.
And then there's still that fear.
We're really good about knowledge, aren't we? We're reading all the books. We go to all the events and we take it in and we get so excited. But what we don't do when we get home or when we finish the book is step into the action. And when you have fear, it's the rare person that can handle this themselves. And it doesn't, go find somebody to help you. If you are really wanting to change, help them help you change your experience. It's action-oriented. When people say, oh, I've got this mantra, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but are you changing how you're operating? If you can do all those, I'm a big proponent of positive thinking and being
that's not enough.
Gratitude.
Yeah, that's not enough.
You can't stop. You got to take the action, even if you fall on your face. I don't know how many times before I got certified as a speaker, I gave a lousy speech. They didn't know it, most people, but I knew it. But I had to keep going as an example to get better. And somehow we think that as long as we say all the right things or read all the right things, it'll change, when only action has to go with all that.
Right. So it's in psychology, it's cognitive behavioral therapy for a reason. So among all the therapies out there, that's probably one of my favorites because it's all about, this is what's going on with you. Here's some action steps.
Yes.
Do it.
That was one of the comments I got back all the time when I had my clinical practice. And they go, we went to another therapist. She or he didn't talk like that, because I'd say, okay, this is what's going on. This is what needs to happen. And this is why it's happening. It's not that I wouldn't do the deep work with them, but all three have to go. Even in therapy, it takes a strategy, it takes the psychology, and then it takes the transformation. And the transformation is what moves you forward. But you can't do it without all three.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about mental health.
Yes.
This country is so messed up.
We are, aren't we?
We're all messed up. So the more I look around, the more I see, I'm like, I think everybody at this point in my life, I think that everybody, absolutely everybody I've ever met, needs at least 10 therapy sessions in their lifetime. at least. And I think we should start them really, really early. So we can deal with whatever happened in childhood. So we don't carry all that with us.
Right.
But I really, truly believe that everybody needs at least 10 therapy sessions, in their lifetime. And there's such a massive stigma associated with going to a therapist.
I know.
Why? Like, I don't understand. It makes no sense to me. Is it Brazil? Brazil or Argentina? I think Brazil. They go to therapy like they go to coffee shops.
Yes, yes. There are other countries that do that. For us, it's especially here in Texas. Oh my goodness! So pull up your bootstraps. I can take care of it. We're the pioneers that came over on the Mayflower. I mean, we still live subconsciously in that state of mind as a society.
Tell me about it.
And here's the thing: in our military and in some of our corporations, if you agree to do that or you seek that out, it can hurt your career. So there are consequences in some of our institutions, and we should take that away. There is nothing wrong with getting help. I mean, we get help. We have a license to drive. There's so many. We have to get a license to fish, but yet we can put ourselves out in life with all this baggage and not get any help. Or a sticker that says, "I went to therapy. I'm good for now."
The idea of getting licensed is spectacular because there's so many parents who go into parenting without any skills whatsoever.
Oh my gosh.
And they don't know how to react, and the stress becomes too much, and they don't know what to do. So I don't know if necessarily we're going to need a license, to be a parent, but I think there should be a little bit of training. So part of those 10 sessions, I think, should include taking care of yourself, learning to put yourself first, learning to, to care for others like they're part of you. And, but yeah, we need therapy. Everybody needs therapy. How do we get that across? How do we make that important? Reduce the stigma.
I know. I find it interesting. They recommend therapy for people that are getting ready to get divorced, but yet they don't recommend it when they have children. Or, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and when you got married, whether people are against the Catholic Church or not, it's not even the point, but you had to take premarital counseling. And I thought, as a therapist, I think that's a great idea. To be married in a Catholic church, I don't know if they still do it now.
They still do it.
Yeah, they still do it. Okay. And then if Children's Protective Service comes in your life, one of the things you have to do is take a parenting class, and you have to go see a therapist, and you have to see what happened, the milder cases, what happened that you can prevent yourself. But one of the things is parents just seem, they say things like, well, I'm too busy. So when I had my practice, they would drop their kids off to go to therapy. I needed to fix them, but they weren't willing to fix themselves. So the kids do need therapy, but the parents need therapy too, because it's a system. Yeah. Just like if you want to call it coaching in some of the work I did in corporations, if someone died unexpectedly on the job, if I did a shooting at NASA many years ago, and I mean, then they bring those things in. But we're not preventative. We don't prevent with our health care. We don't prevent with our mental health. I mean, and we pay and pay and pay for things that are after the fact instead of before the fact. And that's really unfortunate for us as a country.
All right, two things. Corporate counseling, basically like you have school counseling. Yeah. Okay? So corporate counseling or business counseling, but like, offering corporate counseling for that. So let's talk about corporate counseling, because I think that's massively important.
It is.
We don't have that. We have it at school level. And then when we go to corporate, stigma comes in, and oh my God, you went to the psychologist. What's wrong with you? Let me look at how you're acting at work. Let's see what's going on. Let's see if your sales are dropping. Let's see if your performance is dropping. So it's completely different than, a therapist for middle school, let's say, right?
Right.
Why? Like, why do we, I don't even know if we have corporate
Well, we have executive coaching. Okay, some of that comes under executive coaching, but it's not. Progressive companies and when I say small business owners, entrepreneur, I'm talking people that are making a couple million and above that they consider in this country 2 to 15 million small businesses. At the corporate level, you know, some of that happens in executive coaching. Some of the high-end people in the entrepreneurial human personal development space, they will bring people in like me. It's not like come to the office, but it is done. But on a whole, corporate coaching only happens when something happens.
All right, so let's go back to corporate psychology. Basically, we have, you know, children are getting, you know, school counseling.
Yes.
Let's talk about corporate counseling. And so corporate counseling is one thing, and the second thing is women are actually made to feel like we're not enough. You know, so that's why I think it's a little bit easier for us to go ask for help.
Yeah.
And then men are like, oh, I'm so nothing's wrong with me. I'm perfect. So, and plus if they think that something's, you know, if they think that they're not perfect, they're not going to function well in their world. So, okay, two things. So corporate, and then women versus men at the end.
Okay. All right. So corporate counseling, there are pockets of it, you know, at the high end, they call it executive coaching, but that is mostly, so the executive coaches I know and the executive coaching I've done, it's usually around managers that are not doing well with their employees. So I'm hopeful that more of that will come, because sometimes I just have to say, you actually said that to somebody? You know, you can't say that. And this is why, you know, and this is why you're doing it. This is what, you know, what people don't realize. When you're talking to someone and you're in a managerial position or some kind of corporate situation or getting along with your colleagues, there's a lot of transference. This is the psychology. There's a lot of transference that happens. I'm speaking to you and you say something my mother would have said and it would have drove me crazy. All of a sudden I'm responding to you with more tension and anger, and you're saying to yourself, what did I do?
Right.
You know, and so a lot of that goes on in any situation, but in the corporate level, it happens a lot. That's why some departments don't get along. It's like one family versus another family. Like the uncle did this, but your family did this, and now we're having family feuds. We actually recreate our families in corporations, and that's why we have a lot of problems sometimes. And companies are just coming around to systemic thinking around how we can deal with that. So when people ask me for a recommendation for something that I can't take on right now, I always say to them, find out their background and make sure they have systemic thinking if they're going to come into your corporation to do any work. Basic training, no, but interactions with folks, they need systemic experience.
And absolutely right about that, LoriAnne, because it's not just about, you're not just there to do your job. You're there to interact with everybody else.
Yes.
So, like you said, it's a family, right? You know, you have this family on that corner of the office, and you have this other family in the other corner of the office. You can be a fantastic person at your job. You can do phenomenal work, but if you're lacking these soft skills, the talking to people, the knowing how to listen well to the people in front of you, knowing how to be there for somebody, you know, basic it's not even communication skills, because you can write a good email. It's about having empathy, maybe.
Yes,
what
empathy. Insight on how, if that person reacts a certain way the first time, that you have enough knowledge to go, okay, it wasn't about the information I conveyed. Maybe it was my tone. Maybe I just need to have a second conversation instead of getting pissed off, you know? And so it's having skills, those soft skills enough to interact. I was going to I have a little story. When I had this great sales job, one of the things that propelled me to leave earlier was I did get pregnant, but I didn't tell corporate right away, but I had this boss that was an alcoholic, and it was the biggest secret. biggest secret, meaning biggest non-secret, but it was a secret type thing. And they ended up firing a few of us, including me, instead of dealing with them. It's like the dad in the family that no one's letting know that he's an alcoholic and he's doing things, so we'd rather ruin the family than deal with his problem. A year after I got fired, they called me and wanted my opinion on what happened with me. Not my opinion, because, you know, they're a big company, but what happened, what I saw. They wanted my feedback on him. I said, why didn't you put him in rehab if you didn't want to fire him?
Yeah.
They would have fired, so they fired the woman and another guy instead of dealing with the alcoholic boss. I mean, that is family problems playing out in work.
At work.
Now, they did me a favor. I didn't know that at the time. Because I went on to build my clinical practice. But it's an example how dysfunctional we can be in the corporate space.
And it's the same dysfunction that you have at home. Nothing changes.
Absolutely.
The only thing that changes is you're forced to be a little bit nicer, I guess, in many ways, if you think about it. But you know, that being said, that's sad to hear. I'm hoping that doesn't happen a lot in business, but you never know unless you're, you know, like
I think we're a little more sophisticated now, Monica, but, you know, that was quite a few years. We're talking over 20 years ago. But at the same time, there are small other ways that that's happening, just not on a big scale like that, that people don't realize that they're actually creating the same situations they may have at home or had in their, what we call their family of origin. The family you actually grew up with and who taught you everything about how to get along with people or not get along, how money was discussed. And you take that into corporate or you take it into being an entrepreneur and you wonder why you've got some problems sometimes because you're not willing to look at that.
Yeah, and I think the same issues are transferred to selling. The same issues come in with you everywhere, in every aspect of your career, every aspect of your, like if you're an entrepreneur, in every aspect of your business. So how do we get over the hang-ups in selling and also integrate that with being more open? Like, how do we become better people?
Yeah.
Because I think that's what you're trying to do in a very nice way.
Thank you. Yeah, so let's just take selling, because I'm going to take selling because this is what I love about doing this work. It brings out your problems so much quicker because you're so pressured to make your business work. You want personally and from the outside, and I tell people this all the time. I can get more work done if you come to me for sales from a psychological standpoint if you came to me when I had my clinical practice, because those same pressures aren't there. So what happens in the sales is when I work with folks, there are so many things happening. First of all, it's the value issue to ask for the price that you want. There's the confidence. So we have value, we have confidence. We don't like to talk about money. We think about it as the used car salesperson, or I shouldn't bother anyone for follow-up. And so for me, sales has so many aspects, and we ignore that. So sales is about not only structure and strategy, it's about energy and rhythm, it's about numbers and leads, it's about sales psychology, buyer psychology, money psychology, and your psychology. And all we think about when we work around sales is the strategy. And for me, all that, what I just listed, it all happens all together. We've got to be able to pay attention to all of it for everybody who wants to do a good job in this area. But when I say your psychology, I also mean your best version, not your fearful version. So this is where we do the therapy piece. We've got to get you to be confident and to understand that when you enter into a conversation with someone about possibly working with you, that you are actually approaching them as a problem solver. And that's the first thing I teach my folks. You're just not trying to get the sale. You're actually there to help them. And if you're the right fit, then you do them a disservice not to exchange money for what you can do for them. You actually do. But that takes a lot of work.
100%. If you're comfortable with who you are and your product, and you know what you're selling, and you know what you're good at, why do you walk away from helping somebody? Because that's what you're doing. Not by not asking for money, you're walking away from helping that person. At least giving them the option to take you up on, on that option, giving you the option to say, yeah, okay, yeah, this sounds like I can totally do, and figure out the money later. I mean, ask for the money, let the chips fall where they may. You know you're there. And on the same side, on the other side of the coin, if you asking for money and they're like, and you're feeling, friction, and it's not just about the money, because we know it's not about the money most of the time, right?
No, it's transference. It's their issue that when you ask, one of their issues came up. So you do have to be, okay, so I want to just kind of back up. A lot of people think marketing is sales. It's not.
Yes.
I want to give a definition of sales right now. That sales is when you purposely are in a conversation, whether on the phone, in person, maybe messenger, depends how the relationship develops, and the sole purpose to see if this person is a good fit for you and you're asking for the sale. That is all sales is. Everything else is marketing, and women confuse that. They think they do their Facebook Lives, they post, they go networking, that they're doing sales. You're not. That's marketing.
And I see a lot of that, a lot of Facebook Live and Facebook this and video this. And I'm like, but there's nothing behind that. And they're wondering, like, how am I going to grow my network? I'm like, you're not growing your network. You're just giving us your time for free without asking us for anything at the end of it.
Yes.
One of them. But so it's super sad to see that.
So I just want to say, I do think marketing is very important, but you can't have marketing if you don't make any money. So sales comes before marketing.
Well, marketing is not sales.
It's
like
not.
You said. So,
but they have a hard time with that. They won't split it out. So it's a real problem for me, and it actually gets in the way of them being able to close the sale. So it's really kind of sad because they think they're actually selling when they're not.
I have a psychology and marketing background, so it's a massive difference. Like when somebody was like, "Yeah, I want you to increase my sales and get me," I'm like, that's not what I do. I just deliver the message. I tailor it to your market.
Right.
And
it's like an invitation. Marketing's like an invitation.
Right, so I can take care of all of that. Basically, that's what I used to do, and that made sense to me. I'm translating your message to your customer. Great, that's the point, right? But then the expectations got skewed lately, the last 3, 4, 5 years, I guess, into marketing is sales. I'm like, marketing is not sales. No. You don't have a salesperson that can understand consumer behavior and consumer personas, and you don't have that. You have the salesperson, which is sales. Right? That's all they do.
Right. So a lot of marketers say they'll increase, we've gotten sophisticated with how we promote ourselves, whether that's on social media or on our website or what we say. And a lot of marketers say, I will help you increase your sales with marketing. And I just kind of go, tell me how.
Yeah, you can't. I can bring you leads, but that's about it. It's up to you to close because So the big difference between sales and marketing is it's very clear. One sells, the other one brings the people to you.
Right.
So don't confuse the two. They're not the same. Very great point, LoriAnne. Thank you so much for bringing that up. It's like super important point. But I know you have to go, so I'm going to try to go through the last couple of questions as quickly as I can.
Well, I'm enjoying myself.
Awesome. So, we showcase a lot of female entrepreneurs and, in our podcast and all that stuff. So, and a lot of our people are entrepreneurs and a lot of them are in corporate America as well. But one of your goals is to get women to make $1 million a year, right? So let's say we're selling right now. How do we go from selling, I don't know, $50,000 to $100,000 to selling $1 million? Like what are some specific pointers that you could give us for,
Yes.
To
So
get
the
there?
first thing where most women are, unfortunately, the majority of women are under $50,000. I travel the country speaking to a lot of women business groups, but I'm here to tell you that over 75% are under $50,000. So sometimes it's really hard for them to imagine that million because, 50 to a million, you've got to have the vibrational energy to be able to get there along with the strategy and the transformation. So this is what I tell folks. When I'm talking to someone, I'm going to help you triple your sales. If you're at 25,000 in the 6 months you work with me, we're going to go from 25 to 75. That's our goal. Now, once you're stabilized there, now we can go from 75 to the next one. So that'd be a 150. So you're at 225 the next time you come around, and it may be a year or 18 months. Now you're starting to think about, I can maybe get to $1 million when I'm close to $250,000. But the first place you have to start is not think about that million, but tripling where you currently are. So that's goal number one. Goal number two is you must increase your leads. These are practical things to do.
Right.
People don't understand that I am on the phone talking to potential clients 10 to 30 calls a week to be able to close what's good for me.
Right.
And so they think if they speak to one person, that's enough. So the volume of leads, whether you get it through speaking like I do, because that's my business model, or you network around town, you must be able to reach out to more people. Now, what I don't want you to do when you're getting leads is to say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. It's not that. You still have to develop a relationship. When I speak, I'm developing a relationship, and I get to speak to them after I speak, where there's a little bit of networking going on. So I've warmed my crowd. So however you do it, you must warm your crowd. But I challenge you to have a minimum of 10 sales calls a week. That's 40 a month. That's where you need to be.
That's nothing.
It's nothing, but they will throw up on that when I say that.
That is nothing. That is just like, so,
right.
I'm a startup. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
Obviously, all that stuff. So a lot of, some of the very important training that I've been doing is, it has to do with well, what is your goal? What are you trying to make a month?
Yep.
Let's just start there. You start there and you go what is that? How many items do you need to sell? How many products do you need to sell to get to that
And then
point?
how many people you need to talk to do that? Yes.
It's simple math. It really is simple math.
People tell me all the time they're making 25,000. They want to get to 100. That's a nice goal. Actually, I like getting my people to 100,000 if they're under 50. That's a really good goal. So when I walk that, they go, oh, no problem. I'll do the work. I start walking back the numbers. Okay, so you're selling something for $100. You want to know how many people you need to speak to? And to sell 100,000 at $100, which is the other problem, their prices aren't high enough. I mean, the math just wants them to, like I said, vomit. And so, but then we can talk about other things. We can change the business model. Maybe we need to look at the marketing, and then maybe we need to raise your prices. Maybe you're in the wrong market. There's so many things we can do to get you to that first 100. And ladies here, who's ever listening to this, the first 100,000 is the hardest. Because once you get to 100, then you can start leveraging, and that million becomes possible. But most women are under that, and they need a lot of work in that area.
All right. And then one last question. You have one billboard. What message would you put on it, and where would you put this billboard? Big, massive billboard.
I would put it at the busiest intersection, and I would say, I can work with you to make your whatever. If it's for me, I would say I can work with you and promise that I can triple your sales.
That's awesome. Okay, LoriAnne, how can people get in touch with you?
Okay, a couple of ways. Of course, you can social media. It's all under my name, LoriAnne Reeves, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. My website is easy too. It's LoriAnneReeves.com. And if you want to email me, I welcome your audience just to interact with me. And you can email at LoriAnne@LoriAnneReeves.com. So I've made it easy for everybody.
Absolutely. And we'll have all of that information at the bottom of the podcast with all of that information. And I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast today. I really greatly appreciate all the great pieces of advice, not just in psychology, but in sales as well. So it was like a great combination of the two. So thank you so much for all the work you've done through the years and trying to do this for a lot of women, because you're working with a lot of women. Yeah. And so I'm absolutely, greatly appreciative about that. And thanks for taking the time to do this with me on the podcast today as well. But
it was my honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, LoriAnne. And everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. Join us next time and have a fantastic day. You know where to find us. We're at thebusinessmagazineforwomen.com. This is Wonder Women Podcast, and find us on iTunes and on YouTube and on SoundCloud. So we're pretty much everywhere at this point. So find us and join our tribe. Thanks, everybody, and see you next time. Bye.
Just wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody that tuned in today, and I wanted to remind you to go to LoriAnneReeves.com to find out more about LoriAnne and to sign up for her event coming up in Houston in September. The music for our podcast is graciously provided by our very own Wonder Woman, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. Stay tuned for her podcast release coming up to you next week. And if you like what you're hearing, if you like the music like we do, go to cbemusic.com for your free music bundle. Again, that is cbemusic.com, and get some free music. Remember also to go to patreon.com/Wonder Women Podcast and show your support for what we're doing for women in business and female founders and female entrepreneurs to be seen, heard, and get funded. Thanks, everybody, and remember to subscribe and share with everybody that you know. And that's it for us today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.